to another one. Future Health Friday. Alex here. Clean cut. You do that yourself?
Left-handed.
That's
I
so
um I paid for a haircut for the first time in like 15 years and I did not like that haircut and I was so angry. Like, look what I've done. I paid and I was too embarrassed. She like legit like missed an entire spot and I was like too shy and embarrassed to be like, I gotta go back and ask her to like finish my hair. And I just hate the time. Like I cut my hair religiously every 2 weeks for 20 years. And so I just
yeah,
like know how to do it. It's easy. It takes like
efficient.
5 minutes, all the things. And so I hate just having to sit in that chair and tell someone about things and they ask stuff. And I'm like the most extroverted person. I should love this. But I was too shy to go back and be like, I need you to fix the hair that you missed. And so I legit cut my hair left-handed. So now I know in a pinch, I can cut ambidextrous.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. How you been though?
Anything's
How's
possible.
life? How's everything?
I have great news. I got x-rays and my bone, the first x-rays, my bone was out of place. My thumb was dislocated. New x-rays, the bone is back in place. I'm self-healing. I've got some magic. So I don't need surgery. I do need 5 more weeks in a cast. So the doctor was like, your bone is in place. Now we need it to stay in place. And
That's powerful.
so I got more fun with my, he was like, I don't want to make this thing your best friend, but you're gonna need it on until like December 15th. But that's great news. So I feel happy in life. I was terrified of surgery and I don't need it. So
Beautiful. Beautiful.
feel like I could conquer the world.
All right. So 5 more weeks and we're back to
How, how are you?
good, man. Girls are good. Family's good. Triathlon this weekend. Sunday.
Well, full one?
Sprint. So all three components, just shorter distances. But yeah, do something every year that scares you. And every year that
That scares
swim
me.
gets you
You've
going.
done a sprint though before, right?
Yeah.
So this can't count as scaring you. Next is full.
I think anytime I have to swim
It's not,
is
is it, where is it open water swim?
yeah,
That's not normal.
yeah. So anytime I
In
gotta
Florida too. That's not, that feels, you
yeah,
like swim extra fast because the
yeah.
alligators.
It
That's not
yeah,
real.
it's I think it's gonna be in the Gulf.
That sounds
So
awful.
see the alligators or the waves, but nonetheless, let's jump into it. A couple things to talk about. I know one of them is related to our friends in pharma. So for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time and haven't had a chance to experience the Young Health Leader Summit, we pride ourselves on bringing everyone from the health sector, adjacent to the health sector, to the table. We were able to do that in a big way earlier this year. We'll be doing more of it in 2024, and that is insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, folks that specialize in health tech, career development, sports, you name it. So, Friends in Pharma, um, sponsored today, no, but powered today by Eli Lilly. So made really shockwaves through the industry earlier this month for getting a revolutionary uh diabetes and obesity treatment approved by the US Food and Drug Administration. So it's going to rival Novo. And as I kind of mentioned, these companies, feel free to Google them, look them up, check their stock prices, and see how they're doing. Apparently, this is a once a week injection, which contains the same active ingredient as Lilly's big selling type 2 diabetes treatment, Monjaro. So it'll be sold under the brand Zep Bond, and it apparently is a big deal. You're eligible if you have a BMI of between 27 or 30 or higher. And I don't know. I personally don't know anyone that is taking it. I've heard folks talk about it. Um, Alex, I know you have mentioned time and time again just how important food is to our ability to have a sustainable life. And food is medicine. We've talked about it at length with the experts at our summit. So just your general thoughts. Is this good for the world? Is it bad? Do we need to have folks from Eli Lilly at the summit next year to expand on this?
It's an arms race right now and in the future between pharma, so drugs that are going to get us to eat less or different, maybe change our palate a little bit. And so I think that's what the drug does, is what it sounds like, is it kind of tricks your body or makes your body just not want to consume as much food. And so I think the race and the arms race is pharma. Can they get us drugs that make us want to eat less? And then big food. I think we used to say big tobacco. I think now we can say big food. And the processed ingredients and different chemicals and things that they put in to addict us. I think that's well-known fact, is the like dusting on Doritos is just absolutely chemically engineered to. There was all those TV commercials of you like you can't stop, like I think they made it almost like a joke at one point, and then it was like people started learning about the chemicals, and it was like, oh, it's not just like you eat one and you don't want another one. It's like it's made to put the brain waves, it's like tongue to brain immediate sensation of I need another one of those. And so the arms race right now and the future is pharma. Can they get us drugs that make us want to eat less? And then big food, can they make food that maybe is stronger than the drugs that make us want to eat less, and keep going? So it's a very interesting societal debate of should we just be fixing our food system? It's kind of a wild time in the world to be like, we need these drugs. And right now they're expensive. The price will come down. Like you said, just this week was the first sort of US based approval and things. And so there's going to be more competitors, and there's going to be other drugs that come on the market, and there will be a newer, better drug at some point. And so affordability will come down, access will go up. But that's sort of the debate that I think we should be having much more societally, is do we spend all of this money on ways to curb our appetites and to curb the feeling that we get when we're eating, or do we change what we're eating? I would say we should probably, I don't know, I'm not an actuary, and so we need some actual financial modelers to be writing this out. But the time spent is like, we should have drive-through subsidized free salads for everyone. And I thought, like, would that do more than blockbuster drugs and sort of fixing the food industry from a regulatory standpoint? Like, if you just had constant access to healthy salads and it was easy and convenient and ultra affordable, would that change our future and the societal impact of overall health within the next 10 or 20 years?
That's a great point. I think you used two words that come to mind. One is convenient. And then the second is just that instant gratification. I think for a while, access was important, and I think it still is. And I think convenience was important. But I think the true beauty and why this is revolutionary is speed to results. So access to salads, I think, is the ultimate goal. I think right, wrong, or indifferent, we're in a society that doesn't want to wait the 6 to 8 months that it's going to take to start to really see the benefits of changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, etc. But nonetheless, a guy that I follow, Master Investor, he coined, and I don't know if he got it from a book, but he coined the phrase the poison index. So consumption of alcohol, consumption of pharmaceuticals, and consumption of food, and how those three factors are legitimately, driving our economy, driving our decisions, and truly controlling us behind the scenes. So I think you bring up a fair point. The correlation between food and pharma is one that is worth continuing to not only talk about, but to work through. So hopefully we can get some folks that are experts that are leading this work, doing this work, to join us and lead some real tangible action sessions the next time we gather.
We also probably don't talk about side effects as much as we otherwise could or should. And Americans we're used to seeing on TV, even for some, I don't want to say small stuff, but I'm trying to think of an example of like headaches. And I know obviously there could be severe headaches and migraines, or like let's say restless leg syndrome or something. There's some things that luckily I haven't experienced, but it doesn't sound as crazy as some of the other afflictions that you could get in life. So if like your restless leg syndrome, let's say your leg falls asleep or whatever, you'll hear the pill marketed to you, and it's like, if you have restless leg syndrome, take this and your legs will feel young and healthy again. And then at the end of the commercial, you have like, the commercial's 30 seconds long, and then the next 30 seconds is like, also you may have seizures and you may die and you may start walking backwards and you're going to forget your own name and like all those, and it just runs through all the list of like potential stuff. And so I do think I obviously crossing my fingers and hoping that these drugs really are the miracle cures and the miracle drugs and things. And it looks like so you said diabetes, obesity. It also looks like it cuts down heart attack risk in some of the initial studies. And so like really, truly wonder drugs. And I think we should be making some big bets on pharma. And there is tremendous opportunity for the future of, we find these molecules, we turn them into drugs and we get them to people that need them, and we're all better for it. And so awesome, crossing my fingers that it's all true. But we also, I think, probably societally, especially because so many of us, I think just as humans, are wired from viewpoint of just overall body like image. And so hearing like obesity and it's going to change you into this or whatever, it's easy to gravitate towards that. Just we see the cover of magazines and things, and so you just like, we all want a shortcut, right? It's just what you said about the salads and convenience and time. And so I do worry. Someone brought up the point that this isn't the first time that it was thought of that we had miracle drugs for weight loss or for other things. That at one point in like the 70s or 80s, there was a similar type of drug and thought process. And then within a certain amount of time, it was like, oh, the side effects like aren't really worth the what the result you get out of it. And so obviously crossing my fingers that this is the miracle drug and that there will be continued miracle drugs that come after it. But I do think there's some hesitancy that we should probably all have societally when things come out like this, that we should have the debate first of, should we be taking drugs or should we be changing the food we're eating and the culture that we have around food? And then if the answer is still yes, we should be taking the drugs, of what does the sort of side effect look like? What does the long term look like? How many people should be taking these at the same time? All of those sort of questions. I think we're still in the headline era. I say we sort of see the headline of wonder drug and we don't read the rest of the article. That's like,
Give it to me
also
now.
here's some stuff.
Easy to influence. I think as folks listen, we need to have someone on the technical scientific side of the building of these drugs. We need to hear from them. I don't know what kind of restrictions they're under. Know some awesome folks at companies like Eli Lilly, seemingly on the kind of promotion and bringing this to light side, but folks that are actually doing the research, leading the R&D efforts, making these things come to life. That's the ask. We need to have them join the conversation and educate us all. Moving on, I was asked a question on a panel recently, and I want to give a summary of my answer, but I also want to get your thoughts. The question was, the biggest challenge that healthcare is facing, that leaders are thinking about, etc. I thought about it, all the things, patient experience, access, and I think the answer that spoke to me that ultimately I led with was really taking a step back and looking at current state of the economy from a macroeconomic standpoint. We all, if you eat eggs, you've seen cost of eggs, you've seen the headlines that has made, you have heard, Mr. Powell talk, you've heard about inflation and seen those things. And I think when it trickles down to healthcare, one is that numbers don't lie. I think McKinsey put out a report that noted that 76 or so % of health systems have either paused or altered their long-term strategic plans due to inflation, just inflation alone. And I think, when I peel that back, it's the impact that it has on our people, right? They're making decisions on whether they're going to stay and continue to dedicate their time and talent to the workforce. They're making the decision to leave the industry as a whole, whether it be nurses leaving bedside care, folks joining startups. Folks are choosing to take a little bit less money to spend more time with family, etc., because sometimes it doesn't just make sense. And then from a consumer standpoint, I think we saw it during COVID, but we're continuing to see it now. Folks are making decisions to not only go to competitors, but to omit services all around. So if they have to drive too far, if it costs too much, if it doesn't make sense. So all these factors and so much more have continued to really change the way we approach hiring talent, retaining talent, and the way we choose to offer resources to the community at large. So that sparked some great dialogue. It's a theme that we all can relate to, as we make a decision on how to put food on the table, on how to get to and from work, and how we dedicate our time. So really robust discussion, a lot of great feedback, um, and one with no easy answer. So with that being said, Alex, your seat in the aisle. What are your thoughts?
Ooh. It's definitely looking like more difficult times right now. Just talking to some friends that have been laid off or have been in a job search or trying to find a new job or things. I think we're starting to hear much more of sort of pain in the timing and in the availability. And if you look back 2 years ago, there was remote work was sort of a bigger thing. And so there were people that were like, I like my current location things. I want to get a new job. I have found this awesome company, and they were getting hired. And now you're hearing if they want to get hired, they have to live within 25 miles or whatever, 50 miles of like one of their prime location centers. And so that's upended a little bit of thought process and career searches, I think. And then historically, if hospitals were doing poorly, sort of from just a purely financial aspect, if hospitals weren't doing as well, like health plans were generally doing really well. And so you'd see some of the exodus, or health tech was really well funded. And so some people who were either losing jobs on the hospital side or who wanted to get different work-life balance or different needs sort of left hospital administration, went into health plans, or left health plans, went into health tech. Right now, as you start to see, it seems, and I hate to say this out loud, but it seems like none of them are doing well, like none of the ecosystem. And so you got like hospitals struggling financially, also health plans struggling financially, also some of the venture capital rounds going down or things. But I do think also some of it is like a recency bias. Some of it is, I was reading an article the other day about just venture capital rounds. And essentially it's, if you read the headlines, some is like venture capital, especially in digital health or health tech, has cratered. And it's like these last 2 years, it's gone down by 50% and all these things. So if you just see the headline, it's like the world's on fire and venture capital's down. Nobody's making big bets in healthcare anymore. But I guess if you look historically, there was a huge run up until 2020, 2021, 2022, and then sort of a calming back down effect almost. And so we're actually still above historical averages of where digital health and health tech investment was. It's just we lived through some just wild times. And I think we saw it with inflation. We saw it in price of eggs at different times spiked even higher. And so it's really hard sometimes we're that recency bias as we compare the world today as it was exactly a year ago, when not realizing that like a year ago, the world was never like it was a year ago. It was just different and wild, and we were making some weird bets in parts of the economy. And so I do think there is a little bit more struggle right now. I do think some of those fears are valid and real. I also do think what you said, the biggest challenge in healthcare of our time, it's a there's so many. I think I would answer it sort of two parts. I think one is the biggest challenge of healthcare is that we debate healthcare and not health, is that we just conflate those two so much that we have meaningful healthcare discussions. Our healthcare sort of attitude and perception is constantly that we're somehow going to out healthcare ourselves to good health. And so I think the biggest issue is actually that we're not having more health discussions, and that we're always having healthcare discussions. And so we easily pour billions of dollars into new diagnostics and new care models and new things. And we don't very easily put money into salads and safe space neighborhoods and the other things that we could be putting into, like afternoon naps, the things we know like actually cause health and are going to help support us as a society. And so I think the biggest issue facing healthcare is actually just the difference between healthcare and health, and how we talk about that and how we invest in it, how we put our resources. And then the second biggest one I would say is the overall vision of the industry. I'm actually very excited. This was a big week for a few headline articles and a few things. Two things that I saw that I really appreciated. One was this company Forward. I don't know if you saw that, the pod. So they launched, I think they're on like Series E or something. They've been around for a while. There's something called Forward. I think it's just Forward Health or goforward.com, something like that. They sort of pioneered, I don't know about pioneered, the concept existed, but they like put it on steroids, which is also probably a bad word connotation for healthcare. They accelerated the investment in like very tech forward healthcare services. So think like a one medical primary care office, but with more like AI listening to you, taking doctor's notes, and then more like pod version of body scanner. And so I think their theory was you pay this membership and you start your year off with a full body scan, and it looks at your arteries and does the full imaging. And then like they compare that year over year. And so you stay with them. So a little bit just more technology enabled primary care with a few probably supplements thrown in there on the side. So their theory, their founder, so they just raised another 100 million. And so they've expanded that care model into like 25 or so cities. They're now, what he looked out and said, gave a really great interview, but said there are 8 billion people on earth and only 2 billion people have access to healthcare. And so we're never going to be able to scale physicians and nurses and PAs and care delivery enough so that everybody has access to healthcare. And so their idea is to create this like mall kiosk, essentially, kind of those old telehealth bin things. It was like that individual thing you're supposed to sit there and like stick your arm in to do the blood pressure cuff. That again accelerated, so with more money. So a bigger version of that, but in malls, in places to start. And their theory is basically what they said is they're going to watch everything a doctor does and replicate that with software and services. And so it's a big bet, and then eventually get the model to where it's everywhere in different countries around the world. And that's going to be the thing. And that I think there's people somewhere on the back end that sort of oversee it, but their idea is to replace people with software and services. And it could write you your prescription. It could evaluate your mental health. It could be helpful in a bunch of ways. So one, I want to go on record. He said, the direct quote was, "We are going to put more healthcare on earth than has ever been seen before." And I love that, but I also wish there's a future founder out there who's going to say the quote, "We're going to put more health on earth than ever has been seen before." And so I think that goes back to just my original point of the way we view healthcare and health is just backwards to me. But I do appreciate the big bet and billion-dollar bet. I do appreciate the big gap between who has care and who doesn't right now, and how we scale that. And so I like that at least it's something, whether it succeeds or fails, it's like something that you can grasp towards a little bit of, okay, this is a big bet. This is a new thing. This is a concept that could change some things. Appreciated that this week. And then the second one was Mark Cuban got into a Twitter dispute with some of the very well-funded health plans of our time. And not so much a dispute. I think very thoughtful discussion is probably a better way to say it. But he essentially said that we're never going to get the healthcare system that we want if we keep working with incumbents, which essentially he said, like, all of the incumbents are set up to be opaque and difficult and not transparent, and that sort of middleman running, if you are a health tech startup and you get bought by one of those, they just swallow you up into their business model and get more efficient at that middle area so that they can make more money. Or they buy your idea and stop your business so that they can continue their business. And so he essentially said, we have to work around, his viewpoint of the world was we have to work around the current system, and we have to start devising things that are going to change the economic incentive models and things. And so he gave some thoughtful responses of how employers are setting up direct sponsored health plans for themselves and how they're working to do different things. And so I equated those two articles, the big announcement from Forward, the big discussion from Mark Cuban, as those are two. I think healthcare is facing an existential crisis of not having enough forward thinking. If we just keep incremental, we're going to get to a place where we're still on an unsustainable path towards the future, where still not enough people have access to care. The people that do have access to care don't get high enough quality care. It's too unaffordable, both from a personal level and from a societal country level, where we're spending more than 20% of every dollar on healthcare costs. And so all of that, I think, goes back into that point that you made about the economy and the workforce, is we could have a more thriving workforce if we didn't have to pay so much for healthcare. And that's a point that I don't think gets talked about enough, is each of us gets a raise if healthcare costs go down. And you're able to invest in more workers, you're able to invest in more research and development, more innovation. We could finally have the Back to the Future hoverboard if healthcare costs weren't so high.
It all goes hand in hand. Tagline for this conversation may be Mark Cuban on Twitter, or reimagining the vision for healthcare. And I love what you said, putting more health on earth. It gets you thinking, and just thinking about health, I was looking at some data, and we're seeing it on the hospital side, lower inpatient admissions, in many cases lower volume than pre-pandemic times. But two areas that we're seeing an increase in are clinical diagnoses related to mental health, and clinical diagnoses related to alcohol consumption. So all roads lead to taking care of yourself, prioritizing health. And yeah, I think, that we've always said this, and maybe we can close on this note, and that is that the future of health is together. And I know we've mentioned it before, but for those that may be tuning in the first time, when will we be getting together again?
May 16th and 17th, 2024, in Miami, Florida, which we put so much heart and soul and 6 years of learning and tweaking and inviting and probably harassing some big name leaders by email. And so many of them have said yes. We have an incredible all-star lineup of recognizable names and new names and incredible people that are doing interesting stuff in the world of healthcare. And so we put all this heart and soul into the agenda, really thoughtful, of mix of panels and keynotes and conversations. And so just high energy, there's snacks, there's food. Like we really have been thoughtful about the whole experience. And everyone sort of nods their head and is like, that's great, like awesome, we'll see where it fits. And then we say it's in Miami, and people are like, oh yeah, I'll bring a colleague. So I think we should just lead with, we're going to be in Miami in May, and it's going to be beautiful weather. You can wear shorts, and we're going to have an amazing time.
And doing more than just talking, the location within location, always known for curating not only amazing experiences, but located in amazing spaces. And we have some good options lined up for Miami. So we will see you there. Registration will be live soon, and we got a lot of good things to be excited about. So stay tuned, stay blessed, be well, take care of each other, and peace.
3-finger peace signs.